Hello, I'm Joe Oliver at CNN Center in Atlanta. Weekend Review continues after this news update. With Hurricane Emily lurking in the Atlantic, residents up and down the eastern seaboard already have hit the grocery and building supply stores with a frenzy. Emergency management centers are getting cranked up because a lot of the same people who had it out with Hurricane Hugo in 1989 want to get a jump on this storm. Meteorologist Ted Texter joins us now with the latest on Hurricane Emily's movement. Ted?
Joe, we show you the storm over the past 24 hours and point out that there has been some change in direction a couple of times, actually, in the past 24 hours or so. Now it appears to be moving more northwesterly, moving at about 9 miles an hour. That's significant. If it changes direction again, that will be significant, too, and it likely will. We think more towards a westerly track. There are hurricane watches out tonight now from Cape Romaine on northward all the way on up to Fenwick Island. And in these watch areas, of course, persons should be taking some preliminary precautions, getting ready for the eventual approach of the storm. We'll have to watch very closely, of course, to see where it finally does end up. And as it gets closer, the forecast will narrow down considerably. Coordinates for Emily, about 410 miles to the southeast of Cape Hatteras now, winds at 80 miles an hour, moving to the northwest at 9 miles an hour. Gusts are up to 100. It will likely gain some intensity as it gets closer to the shoreline and closer to the Gulf Stream. That will bring warmer waters to its base and intensify it. Joe?
Thank you, Ted. Heavy rains brought floods back to Des Moines, Iowa today and forced hundreds of residents to leave their homes. The Raccoon River and Walnut Creek have overflowed their banks, spilling water into the streets of Des Moines today, and work crews rushed to protect the city's water treatment plant for the second time this year. Central Iowa residents were trying to get back to normal after the intense floods that drowned their cities and homes earlier this summer. President Clinton is boarding Air Force One this hour to head back to Washington after a leisurely holiday in Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts. The president and his family spent their last day of vacation taking in the sights around the resort area. And Mr. Clinton stopped to get a glass of lemonade from a roadside stand. The August break was Mr. Clinton's first vacation in 4 years. They're letting their hair down in London. The crowds are expected to reach 1 million by tomorrow. The 28th annual Notting Hill Carnival is bouncing to an Afro-Caribbean beat this year. Sunny weather brought the crowds out early, and there seems to be an endless amount of energy and a wealth of imagination in the elaborate costumes. With food and music from around the world, the festival is the biggest in Europe. We'll have more news at the top of the hour. Up next, a dispute over gay rights and arts funding in Georgia on Weekend Review as CNN Weekend continues.
Welcome back to Week in Review. The issues of gay rights and the arts became entwined this week in a prosperous suburb of Atlanta, Georgia.
Gay, 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 gay.
Dozens of gay rights demonstrators shouted outside the county office building. Inside, the county commissioners were reaching the culmination of a 2-month battle.
Please stand and join in the invocation and the pledge.
The council was about to take a crucial vote as gay rights groups and conservative Christians around the nation watched intently.
Commissioners, there are artists who have chosen to enrich the quality of life in your community. Celebrate this. Don't condemn it.
The issue at hand is not suggesting censorship. It is suggesting that our taxpayers' monies are not going to go to fund artwork that we as a community have deemed as perversion and inappropriate to moral guidelines.
The motion is to divert the arts grants funds to the Public Safety Department in a proper second. I call the question. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen.
2 weeks ago, the same council voted to condemn the gay lifestyle. This week, commissioners said the arts promote a so-called gay agenda and voted to cut off county arts money and give it to law enforcement instead.
Hey, Cobb County, look! We're here. We're your neighbors. We're your sisters. We're your daughters.
The week began in Cobb County with dual demonstrations on the town square in Marietta. First, a gay rights picnic.
We are showing that we are sick and tired of having the religious supremacists of this country tell us that they are the ones that know about the gay lifestyle and family values.
Followed by a prayer rally from a second group calling themselves Concerned Church Members.
We declare, Lord God, this city shall not be famous for perversion, but it shall be known as a city of refuge and a safe haven. And we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
Just north and west of Atlanta, Cobb County is an increasingly affluent and politically conservative county. So conservative in some quarters that the city of Kennesaw voted to require every citizen to own a gun. Much of the county is represented in Congress by conservative Newt Gingrich. The county commissioners argue their votes simply reflect community standards, not the politics of hate.
The change in ordinance was not aimed at strictly homosexuality or child pornography or bestiality or any other particular thing. It was aimed at getting public purpose out of the money that we spend from the public.
One event that angered the commissioners was a local play that briefly discussed AIDS. The production was financed in part by county money. But many gay activists insist the issue is not taxation, but discrimination.
The commissioners did not originally propose killing arts funding altogether. They've only done this to save face, to avoid lawsuits against the county for censorship and for violations of the First Amendment to the Constitution. It's a sad day for Cobb County.
And there are questions about whether the public really supports the anti-gay resolution as strongly as the commissioners. A poll this week by an Atlanta newspaper shows a majority think the resolutions do not reflect community standards. While children play in Cobb County, parents fight over community standards, taxation, and gay rights. Arts groups like the local theater appear to be the biggest losers in this battle, but perhaps not. The theater at the center of the controversy reports private contributions up significantly since the vote. Next week, they expect a large contribution from a well-known actor. For Week in Review, I'm Dick Wilson.
Tens of thousands of people converged on the nation's capital Saturday to reenact the 1963 March on Washington. The crowd was much smaller than the 200,000 who gathered to hear Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech 30 years ago. And the agendas were varied, everything from gay rights to health care reform. But the message was the same.
We call our Creator by many names, and we speak in 100 tongues. But today we're all singing the same song, the song of freedom, justice, and peace, and jobs for all people. On this greatest of days, we will join together and sing in luminous harmony and the prophetic words of the dreamer, of free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
In a few moments, we'll show you an art exhibit inspired by the march. Testimony continued this week in the trial of two black men accused of beating white truck driver Reginald Denny at the start of the riots in Los Angeles last year. 20-year-old Damian Williams and 28-year-old Henry Watson are accused of attacking Denny, 5 other motorists, and 2 firefighters at the intersection of Florence and Normandy. A Hispanic woman whose car was smashed at that intersection says she was targeted because she wasn't black.
Why did you have to slow down?
Because traffic was being directed according to the color of your skin at the time.
Who was directing traffic?
Some blacks, African Americans in the middle of the street.
And would you describe that, please?
It was like, go and know this one, and, you know, I mean, I'm just saying, I wasn't listening to this, okay, but hand motion.
Could you see any difference between the persons that were allowed to pass versus the persons that were not allowed to pass?
The persons that were allowed to pass were all black, dark.
Denny testified he couldn't remember anything about the attack.
Do you remember being removed from your vehicle?
No.
Do you remember being kicked or beaten?
No.
Do you remember your face being held to the ground by someone's foot?
No.
Do you remember being hit over the head by a large white object?
No.
Do you remember being hit in the head with a hammer?
No.
We have to get you back.
Denny was rescued by 4 Good Samaritans, 2 men and 2 women, who were watching the beating on television. In a related story this week, federal prosecutors are appealing the 30-month sentences given Sergeant Stacy Kuhn and Officer Lawrence Powell for violating black motorist Rodney King's civil rights. The government says the sentences were too lenient. Rodney King, meanwhile, who was arrested a week ago for driving drunk, has been ordered to spend at least 2 months in an alcohol rehabilitation center. Coming up on Week in Review, a hostage crisis ends in Nicaragua and a presidential regime ends in Nigeria.
Tonight, getting deep into heritage, how these Kuwaiti youths are reviving an old tradition, pearl diving, and digging up secrets about an ancient civilization in Belize on CNN World Report, midnight Eastern tonight.
It isn't normal for a car to use solar power to cool the cabin while you're away. But that's an option on the Mazda 929. Because we just thought a luxury of innovation might appeal to you.
Dear Midas, after getting an outrageous estimate at my dealer, I came back to your shop. Your mechanics,
John, Jim, Ron, Robert,
gave me a free estimate, stayed late to finish the job, and even pointed out that my brake pads were under warranty, saving me a lot. I was so thankful for not being taken advantage of. I bought them all lunch the next day. Thank you, Sarah Acco.
As you know, I'm not only the heckler president, I'm also a client. If your hair is thinning like mine was, call now for your free video.
The first thing my wife said when she saw it, that I looked 10 years younger. That was the first words out of her mouth. Not hello, not hi.
I feel good about myself when I get up in the morning. It's easy to maintain and manage.
So call now for your free video on hair club's developments in dealing with thinning hair. To help our clients, see how this free video can help you too.
Not ready to take the plunge, but still want to get your feet wet? Live together. Can it really help your relationship in the long run? To move in or not to move in? Monday on Sonia Live, 1 p.m. Eastern, only on CNN.
Nigeria's president finally stepped down this week with an elaborate parade in his honor. But the man who won the most votes in June elections was not sworn in. Instead, President Ibrahim Babangida appointed a well-connected businessman to head the interim government. His primary task is to organize the new presidential election, which officials say should take about 6 months. The interim chief is from the same town as Moshood Abiola, the undeclared winner of June's elections. President Babangida annulled those elections because he says they were rigged, and then he promised to step down in August, 8 years after his coup in 1985. Abiola is out of the country, but plans to return to Nigeria to form what he calls a real government. Nicaraguans celebrated Thursday after rival political groups finally released all their hostages. The tit-for-tat hostage crisis began 1 week ago Thursday, when rearmed Contra rebels seized dozens of hostages, including the country's vice president. The next day, Sandinista gunmen retaliated by seizing dozens of hostages. A team led by Cardinal Miguel Obando Bravo negotiated the end of the hostage crisis. The rebels are unhappy because they say President Violeta Chamorro has never made good on promises of aid and land. The rebels also say Sandinistas have too much power in the current government and want the president to dismiss her chief of staff and the Sandinista army chief. Chamorro defeated the Sandinistas in 1990, but they still control the army and police forces. Please raise their hands.
Unforgettable. Nothing brings back memories like the music you love. And nothing brings back your favorite hits of the 50s like your hit parade from Time Life Music. You'll get legendary artists like Perry Como.
Don't let the stars get in your eyes, don't let the moon break your heart. See the
Joe Stafford. Nat King Cole.
They try to tell us we're too young.
Doris Day.
Whatever will be.
chances are
Johnny Mathis,
'cause I wear a silly grin.
the Mills Brothers.
Shine little ballroom glare.
And the memories begin with 24 all-time hits from 1954.
Hey there,
Rosemary Clooney,
you with the stars in your eyes.
Tony Bennett,
Take my hand, I'm a stranger in paradise.
the Chordettes.
Mr. Sandman.
Call now to get 24 of your favorite hits from 1954 at the special price of just $9.99 for compact disc or double-length cassette. Then audition other great hit parade albums, each for 10 days free.
Fairy tales can come true. It can happen to you if you're young at heart.
So call now and relive the romance.
To order Hit Parade 1954, use your credit card and call now 1-800-426-3300 or send $9.99 for one double-length cassette or one compact disc, plus $3.50 shipping and handling to Hit Parade 1954, Department 1, Richmond, Virginia.
Some dramatic and disturbing works are on display in Washington this weekend to illustrate the ongoing struggle for civil rights. Kathleen Koch has more.
The images are both startling and familiar. On canvas, in collages, on quilt, and in bronze, some 40 black artists tell the story of the civil rights movement. The exhibit at Washington's Corcoran Gallery of Art is entitled I Remember, 30 years after the March on Washington. The project creator calls it inspirational.
When you look at it, you think of triumph, and you think of strength, and you think of pride.
Like an icon of hope, the face of Martin Luther King gazes from many of the works. His speech at the Lincoln Memorial prompted one artist to change a painting of jazz musicians into a passionate struggle between Aunt Jemima and a policeman.
And so the whole idea of Aunt Jemima rising up would be the final statement that people had taken as much as they could take and that they would take no more.
Items dropped on the streets during the Watts riots of 1965 inspired junk artist Noah Purifoy.
He went out and found these pieces and decided that he should put them together as a reminder so that people could see what others had lost.
Some works reflect artists' personal losses. A 1963 self-portrait after the artist was ousted from a whites-only restaurant. An artist's agony upon learning of the assassination of Martin Luther King. Most of these works are from artists' private collections. Many have never even been exhibited before. They were shunned by museums and private collectors because the images were so disturbing. Even today, the exhibit's offerings remain emotionally compelling.
In this collection, you really look at the piece and you get involved in the piece. And once you reach that level of involvement with the artwork, then you're touching a part of the movement and what the artist has intended in the artwork.
And as recent works inspired by Rodney King and the Los Angeles riots make clear, it's a movement still in progress. Kathleen Koch for CNN, Washington.
I'm Chuck Roberts. Coming up on Week in Review, silence from the sky means trouble for NASA and its exploration of Mars.
Every Monday, there's a heat wave. Every Tuesday, it snows. And the rest of the week doesn't get any better. Testing the reliability of Trane air conditioners takes 16 miserable weeks. But when it's helping to make them some of the most durable air conditioners on Earth, you don't mind the sudden changes in weather. Designed, tested, and manufactured to last, it's hard to stop a Trane.
Didn't I see you with a Honda dealer yesterday? Yeah, you were looking at that Accord. Well, you should know that in an independent 100,000-mile test, the Oldsmobile Achieva beat the Accord. And now you can buy an Achieva S with air, automatic, anti-lock brakes, and more for just $199 a month for 36 months. it's your choice.
An unforgettable motion picture event. The fall and rise of an American family. Arthur Miller's The American Clock. Tuesday on TNT.
For a week now, NASA's been out of touch with the space probe headed for Mars. After several unsuccessful attempts to make contact, NASA now believes the observer is lost in space.
The Red Planet. An object of human fascination for centuries, and the source of many a tale about extraterrestrial life. NASA's last visit to the planet was in 1976, when the twin Viking probe sent back spectacular computer-enhanced images and checked the soil for signs of life. So anticipation had been building for the Mars Observer, the satellite designed to make the first ever detailed map of the planet. It was launched last September and was supposed to go into orbit this week.
And liftoff of the Titan III rocket with the Mars Observer and America's return to the Red Planet.
It was operating perfectly well before then, absolutely normally. But the transmitter did not come on after that, and we've, as you know, tried many things. So something happened in that period of time.
The first day we tried the obvious things, and then the next day you try more difficult things, and each day you keep trying more and more things. And so after a while you begin to lose options.
NASA lost contact with the Mars Observer last Saturday as the fuel tanks were being pressurized. The options dwindled quickly because the craft was due to begin a crucial braking maneuver on Tuesday that would bring it into orbit around Mars. Tension and disappointment rose at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in California with each attempt to reestablish communication.
Okay, we've come up negative on our search for signal.
People working on this job have really been dedicated. They've wrapped their whole lives into it. Many of our people have worked on this for their whole technical careers. It's like losing a child almost. But we're not saying we're lost yet.
The Deep Space Network of antennas failed to pick up any sign that the craft had begun its swing around Mars, so NASA didn't know if it was settling into orbit, speeding beyond the planet's reach, or even worse.
The pessimistic scenario is that when they went to pressurize the fuel tanks on Saturday, that there was either a small explosion that caused the spacecraft to go into a tumble, or a large explosion which destroyed the spacecraft completely.
NASA says such an explosion is highly unlikely. NASA engineers are looking into several theories. They say one possibility is that a transistor in the satellite's clock failed, shutting down all communication. A transistor from the same manufacturing lot failed aboard a weather satellite recently, forcing its launch to be delayed. NASA hoped an automatic sensor on the craft would prompt it to call home on Wednesday afternoon, but they heard only silence. And they began facing the prospect that their billion-dollar project might end as a complete failure.
This will be a very, very major loss if we cannot get contact and bring back the information from Mars Observer. We will still have to do the equivalent of Mars Observer before we can continue with sample return or piloted missions and so on. So eventually, if this is indeed lost, it will probably have to be replaced.
The observer's pictures were to have been used to pick a landing site for a manned mission planned for the next century, and the satellite was to relay data from 2 Russian probes due to land on Mars in a few years. Projects to explore Mars have been beset with problems since the 1960s. The last major effort was by the Soviet Union. Their twin Phobos probes of 1988 and 89 sent back scant data before they failed. And for NASA, the potential loss of the Mars Observer was yet another sign of trouble in the agency.
Go for main engine start. 3 main engines up and burning. 3. We have a cutoff.
Launch of the Space Shuttle Discovery was aborted at the last minute on August 12th. The shuttle is weeks behind schedule. NASA Administrator Daniel Golden was brought in as a reformer, and he's steering the agency away from projects like the Mars Observer.
Spending $1 billion on one program to go to Mars and betting it all on one spacecraft, that's the systematic problem. What we ought to be looking at is seeing if we could break up the mission into smaller parts
On Thursday, Golden ordered an outside investigation of the apparent loss of the craft. One group this week accused NASA of purposely disabling the Mars Observer so it wouldn't find evidence of intelligent life on the planet. The group calls itself Mars Mission and says 2 photographs taken by Viking clearly show artificial structures on the planet, including a huge humanoid face.
It is well proportioned. The layout of its features are anthropometrically correct. It is highly symmetrical. It is also embellished with subtle details.
NASA dismisses the images as mere tricks of lighting. But the pictures do show one thing, that people remain fascinated with Mars and will keep searching the skies for information on the red planet. For Week in Review, I'm Chuck Roberts.
And thank you for joining us for this Week in Review. I'm Susan Rook. Hope you have a great week.
Hello, I'm Joe Oliver. One of the world's largest street carnivals is underway in West London, and the mood is festive. The 28th annual Notting Hill Carnival is reportedly the biggest in Europe and only second in the world to Brazil's Rio de Janeiro Festival. 1 million people are expected to attend the 2 days of parades, dancing, music, and food. This year's theme is Afro-Caribbean culture. World News is up next. Coming up, the U.S. helicopters take to the skies of Mogadishu. We will have the details. Store shelves are going bare all along the eastern seaboard as Hurricane Emily continues to blow to the coast. Water isn't a problem in Des Moines, Iowa. Once again, there's too much of it. President Clinton quenches his thirst for a little R&R as he ends his summer vacation. And inmates get a jolt of reality from a New York prison program known as Shock Camp. Details on those stories and more coming up next on World News.
The people of the Northwest. Because you've made recycling so important, you've helped make us one of America's largest paper recyclers and helped conserve one of our most precious natural resources. We've recycled a lot already, and by 1996 we plan to do twice as much. So, thanks. We couldn't have done it without you. Weyerhaeuser.
The power of a city is in its vision. The professional contractors of NECA and skilled electricians of IBEW provide that vision. Dedicated people who bring you tomorrow's technology today. Talented journeymen and apprentices trained through the Metro Electrical Center. Vision that brings your ideas and this commercial to life. NECA and IBEW Local 48. Vision for the future.
The
The annual Hawaiian Day sale at Brian Bickmore Dodge means big savings. Register to win an all-expense-paid Hawaiian vacation. Total liquidation of all new Dakotas at your price savings. This new 93 Dakota LE pickup with V6 engine and factory air, your price $10,793, only $199 per month. Total liquidation of all new trucks. 30 Club Cab diesels at your price savings. This new 93 Club Cab diesel, just $22,493. That's Brian Bickmore Dodge on Canyon Road in Beaverton. We rent cars and trucks for $15 per day.
Gordon's Fireplace Shop and Home Decor is having a summer sale. Beautiful selections of curios and other fine home furnishings. Grandfather clocks at half off. Choice decorator lamps on sale. A complete selection of mirrors, including many wall sculptures and framed works of art. Portland's finest selection in fireplace screens, gas logs, and gas fireplaces on sale today at Gordon's Fireplace Shop and Home Decor, 33rd and Northeast Broadway off I-84. Open 7 days, weekdays till 8 p.m.
This is CNN.
The Israeli cabinet prepares to vote on whether to grant self-rule to some Palestinians. Will autonomy lead to peace or more bloodshed?
Round and round and round it goes, and where it will land, nobody knows. But people along the mid-Atlantic aren't taking any chances as Hurricane Emily inches closer to the United States.
A late update of the day's news. This is World News on CNN with Joe Oliver at CNN Center in Atlanta and Gene Meserve in Washington.
Thank you for joining us. We begin tonight with breaking news from Mogadishu, Somalia. A Reuters news service quotes witnesses on the scene as saying a U.S. military operation appears to be underway. They describe an attack by U.S. helicopters on a portion of the city reputed to be a stronghold of fugitive warlord Mohammed Farah Aidid. The witnesses tell Reuters they do not see any United Nations troop involvement, that it is a U.S.-only operation. CNN's Mike Hanna is on the ground in Mogadishu. He joins us now by phone with the latest. Mike?
Well, Joe, the operations lasted for just over 2 hours. Numerous helicopters have been taking part. The target appears to be at least 2 locations in the south of Mogadishu, which is the stronghold of fugitive warlord Mohammed Farah Aidid. Nightscope footage from the roof of the hotel where a number of journalists are staying shows troops shinning down lines from at least 5 Black Hawk helicopters. It's possible to see between 8 to 10 troops coming down each line, so the possibility is that there were at least in the region of 50 troops actually deployed on the ground. There were no sounds of small arms fire, but I counted 2 mortar rounds falling in the vicinity of the operation. About 15 minutes ago, a number of helicopters were seen to land or hover in the vicinity, it seems, to pick up the troops. It's impossible at this stage to tell what the target is, whether or not this is an operation to capture Mohammed Farah Aidid. There are a number of other people that the UN says that it is hunting. It's been a pretty busy night because a few hours earlier there was a major attack on Mogadishu airport in which a number of mortar rounds were fired. So the situation is still pretty confused on the ground here, but what is clear that has happened is that a very major operation has just taken place, Joe.
Thank you very much. CNN's Mike Hanna reporting from Mogadishu. Gene?
President Clinton has just left Martha's Vineyard where he had been vacationing, making no statement about the attack. CNN senior White House correspondent Wolf Blitzer has more on the mission. Wolf, what can you tell us?
Well, Gene, what we know is that earlier on Sunday, 3 U.S. soldiers were slightly injured when there was some incoming mortar fire at the Mogadishu airport. U.S. officials tell CNN that the current helicopter operation is probably designed to go after the source of the incoming fire, with daylight now approaching over the skies of Mogadishu. And this is not, they suggest, part of a broader mission designed to capture Somali warlord Mohammed Farah Aidid. The U.S., by the way, has only 14 helicopters in the Mogadishu area, 8 attack helicopters and 6 observation helicopters. There's 1 wire service accounts suggesting that 40 U.S. attack helicopters are somehow involved, and officials tell me that that is way off since there are only a total of 14 U.S. helicopters in the vicinity. The officials say that finding the source of the mortar fire that did cause the damage on Sunday at the airport will be extremely difficult since these kinds of weapons are so easily transportable. And they also say that as a matter of routine, following these kinds of attacks, following these kinds of incidents, the U.S. does undertake what they describe as these search operations. So I'm led to believe that what is underway right now in Mogadishu is probably something much less than a full-scale assault, a full-scale operation designed to capture Mohammed Farah Aidid, but is rather designed to go after those who were responsible, probably Aidid's followers, for Sunday's attack on U.S. troops at the airport in Mogadishu. Those 3 U.S. soldiers, by the way, were treated, and I'm told they were released, so they were only very slightly injured. This is not considered a major setback or anything along those lines.
Well, if only U.S. forces appear to have been involved, is there any significance to that?
That would not be all that much of a surprise, since the major military capability in the vicinity, of course, involves the U.S. troops. The Italians have some capability. The French certainly have a few attack helicopters. The Russians, by the way, have a few cargo helicopters in the vicinity. But if U.S. troops were injured in this incident on Sunday, then it would not be all that surprising that only U.S. troops would be involved in some sort of search operation designed to prevent these kinds of incidents from recurring.
Wolf Blitzer, senior White House correspondent, thank you very much. Joe?
Just days before Mideast peace talks are to resume in Washington, word of a possible turning point in relations between Israel and the PLO. A plan for Palestinian self-rule in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank town of Jericho. CNN's Gerald Kessel reports.
Israeli Foreign Minister Shimon Peres, fresh from his unexpected meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Warren Christopher, briefed the cabinet on the dramatic development. The Israeli government reconvenes Monday evening to ratify the outline accords.
If the cabinet will approve, then the delegation in Washington will have the authority to sign this agreement.
The outline accord was confirmed by leading Palestinians.
This is an agreement that has been tentatively reached between, on the one hand, the Israeli leadership, on the other hand, the Palestinian leadership, namely the PLO.
Is this the long-awaited breakthrough? Israeli ministers were asked.
If tomorrow or the day after tomorrow there will be a formal agreement, it is absolutely a very, very important historical moment.
Palestinians say a new Israeli attitude towards the PLO opened the door.
There is a conceptual change in the position of the Israeli government.